Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have an awesome review for you from the brand Quiet Carry. Now, a little bit about them. They're a small California-based operation, basically, where they design stylish, modern pocket knives with outsourced production. So that's something that can be a point of contention for a lot of people, but I think that they've proven that whatever factory that they're sourcing from is actually doing some pretty outstanding work. Definitely, if you were not big into knives, you can do a quick Google search and probably find a lot of other reviews just kind of gushing about some of their more recent releases. Now, this particular type of knife would be considered kind of an EDC folding utility knife. Some key common characteristics in design language when you're looking to have something you can carry every day. Of course, you're going to want that pocketable size and versatile blade, which I think you definitely have in spades here. This is the Quiet Carry Waypoint, and this is in the bead blasted finish on the handle there. And a little bit about that, guys. Essentially, it's their unique take on an all-purpose all-terrain cutter designed not only to survive but thrive in extreme salty environments. That's something that's huge when it comes to, of course, your knives or just anything that's metal. So one thing that really sets this knife apart is that it uses Vanax Super Clean blade steel, and it's basically one of the most technically advanced nitrogen-based steels that are out there. It's kind of the new darling when it comes to kind of having the balance, right? Because there's edge retention, there's the hardness, there's how easy is it to sharpen, of course, corrosion resistance. There's all these things that are always kind of in a balance, and you can either be more oriented towards a tool steel, which is going to be very hard, but probably less resistance to corrosion, or you can go the other direction, and then it's something that you're going to end up having to sharpen quite a bit. So what ends up happening is when you find those ones that hit that sweet spot that actually can be quite corrosion resistant, but also quite great when it comes to the performance, cutting performance, and that edge retention, it's a huge thing, and it's things that people really look for. So with all that said, let's actually go ahead and take a closer look. All right, guys, before we get into this piece here, do the full review, quick wristwatch check. This is the I believe the A5. This thing is great. The reason why I figured it'd be a nice pairing is because, as you can see, American Assembly. It's also a Southern California-based brand, and I really love what they're doing. So figure a little bit of support for SoCal brands here with Quiet Carry, and then of course while you're watching the video you'll see this there flopping around on my wrist. Now this thing is legit. It's very simple, it's very refined, and it's kind of crazy to think that this was their first try, because it's such a, I guess, it's such a knife that is an evolution of so many ideas, that you almost this feels like the fourth, fifth, sixth iteration of something else, versus the first iteration of what it is. And the Waypoint, man, this thing, it just hits on so many levels, guys. So not only does it, of course, have that Vanax blade steel there, which is going to be pretty much corrosion proof, but also have the edge retention, similar to something like an M390, which is, also a really great steel. This is something you can throw in salt water, leave it soaked, and essentially lose it, find it a week later, and it's still going to be performing really well. And part of that is also because their liner lock here is actually made out of LC200N, so that is also completely corrosion resistant. I shouldn't say completely, of course. The Titanic, you leave it down there long enough, things are going to grow onto it. But this is basically, a current darling when it comes to, hey, what are you going to use for food prep? What kind of steel is going to be that thing you can get wet, keep wet? It's something like that. And you have that thoughtfulness in the liner. And then, of course, because it is a liner lock, it basically has two show scales. You have a nice solid scale here, nice solid scale there, versus having a cutout for a lock bar if this was, a frame lock. So really nice. man, that action is smooth. Very Sebenza-like as far as the close and open, because this is running on phosphor bronze washers as well, which is another reason why this thing is great. And you can drop it essentially in the ocean, forget about it, and come back and get it later, because it's just simplified as far as moving parts go. Man, that smoothness is just really, ooh. Okay, so now about that blade, of course, it is made out of that Vanax Super Clean stainless steel. You have that drop kind of clip point blade. It's hollow ground, as you can see here. Let's see if I can get a good angle where the light kind of catches. You can see basically with the contouring that it is not a flat grind. It is hollow, and of course this is a very, very thin blade stock. The handle is grade 5 titanium, which is great. It does have a deep carry wire pocket clip, which aesthetically not everybody's in love with, but I think as far as performance goes, everybody loves having wire pocket clips. They just perform so well, and they don't scream "I have a knife in my pocket" when you're actually wearing one, which is nice. But because it does have this style of clip, it is actually interchangeable. They do have brands that actually do replacements, like Rips Garage Tech. So maybe I'll do a follow-up and switch out to a milled clip for you guys. So as far as the size goes, this thing fits really, really great. Overall length at just around 7.5 at 7.52, blade length being 3.31, close length being 4.22, and the weight being at just 2.7 ounces. So this thing is quite thin. Beautifully, oh man, that action, that it's just really satisfying with the thwap that it kind of gives when it locks into place is just beautiful. And you know, it's just proportionally it's great. Another quick comparison is another quiet carry, you know, similar design language here. As you can see, the signature kind of 4 dots on the scale, even the bead blasted finish. This one has a milled pocket clip that's deep carry. I did a review on this. It's actually using L-Max steel, which is also quite good, and also a very thin blade. So you can see they're all about keeping that carry quiet. It's just thin, sleek design, very modern, guys. They're doing things that a lot of knife manufacturers don't necessarily have to do, because there's a lot of brands that kind of they just have their traditional rear flipper here. This is a little bit smaller. I'd say this is like more of a mini carry. This is, I'd say, a full size. I wouldn't call it a large knife at all, but it's basically, I think, full size for EDC anyway. Some might think it's a little bit small, honestly, for a full size carry. But as you can see here, actually, let's put them this way so you can get an idea. Let's line them up pivot to pivot. Not too much of a difference in size, but you're seeing obviously some of the same characteristics of just the beauty and simplicity in design that you're getting here. So really great. I'll keep it as far as the comparisons at that. Maybe I'll do head-to-heads later on and actually compare these to some other knives in the collection. So as far as like the ergonomics in hand, this thing feels great. Of course, it has those stick-like ergonomics, which are going to line up. Your fingers don't really have to search. You get that full 4-finger grip. You have some really actually usable jimping there, and it doesn't come out. It's cut into the blade versus having jimping that comes out of the blade, which I think really keeps with that minimalist aesthetic. As far as, you know, the only thing I think that might be somewhat bothersome is the thumb studs are, I guess, a little bit sharp. It's, if I was gonna nitpick about something, you know, these aren't my favorite thumb studs that I've ever used. But you know what? Neither are the thumb studs in, you know, my Chris Reeve Sebenza. People know those aren't the funnest thumb studs to use. You know, the thumb studs on probably like my Benchmade mini grip are some of the nicer thumb studs. These are a little bit sharp. I think that if the design is nice enough, but I think if they had a little bit more of a broken edge, that would help with comfort. But at the same time, you're getting kind of that high definition HD like grab. That thing is sticking to your thumb. You're getting purchase on it. So I can see why they did keep that as a tactile touch point, being a bit sharper, just to make sure that you're going to be able to get that purchase to flip this out. So real fast on the open, a little slower, of course, on the close. This isn't going to be something that's going to be fall shutty. It's just not meant to be that type of knife. Definitely more in the vein of a Sebenza being kind of a slow roller. You can also slowly roll it out as well. And it's, again, basically feeling like it's on glass. Has that beautiful detent that just keeps it where it needs to be. You have this nice cutout here, the little finger groove, so you can really get it going. I don't think there's going to be really any type of special flicking or, you know, any different ways of deployment that I would want to try to, like, you know, open it any other way. So it's not that type of knife or anything. It's not super fidgetable, but it's definitely super usable, which I think is great. The detent as actually, of course, it does have a nice ceramic ball inside there, if you can see it. You've got to get it close to the lens, but try to get light on. There you go. So you get the nice ceramic detent ball. So really nice. Again, another nice feature is just the cohesiveness of design. You can see the hardware is also blasted very nicely. Even the pocket clip, you know, this thing is just super matte, super nice. And I'm getting it, of course, a little bit fingerprinty because it's warm with the studio lights on it. In pocket, of course, it lays super. Guys, look how thin this thing is. Not only is the blade stock thin, but the handle is very, very thin. So if I can get it close here, throw my hand behind here to get it to focus in. You can see again, look at the tolerances on that back spacer. There's no gaps in there. There's no light shining through. That thing is just put together. Really, really beautifully done. Big fan. Great size. You know, again, it's probably comparable, of course, to a small Sebenza in size, or, you know, a 940. It almost even has a similar kind of almost reverse Tonto look to it. Not quite as reinforced as the 940's reverse Tonto blade. As far as the tip goes, this thing is definitely meant to be more of a slicer. Man, this thing is nice. As far as the model variants go, you can get it with a stonewashed handle with a satin blade, or you can get it fully stonewashed handle, stonewashed blade, which I think probably looks really great. Or the combination, of course, of stonewashed and satin. It's definitely very nice as well. As far as comparable options go, that's a tough one. There really aren't many in terms of blade steel. This isn't a steel that you're just going to find in knives, especially not in knives that are affordable. I guess one thing I forgot to mention is the price on this. It's actually $295 direct from Quiet Carry, so just under 300 bucks. Is that an expensive knife? Yes, it's an expensive knife. It's not a cheap knife by any means, but it is also not cheap in any way. There's nothing about this knife that isn't absolutely top notch. And yeah, it doesn't use necessarily maybe certain feature sets, like it's not running on bearings, but again, you'll find tons of enthusiasts that actually prefer washers because of maintenance, and then how easily you can basically take it apart, put it back together. Definitely helps. And then of course gunk isn't going to get stuck in there, and I think that really fits the whole theme of this particular knife, is that you can take it anywhere, do anything, and again, not to survive but to thrive. So that's just pretty insane. I mean, just as being able to have kind of an affordable, quote unquote, under $300 knife that has this blade steel that's heat treated well, so that you can actually use it to cut, and actually never ever worry about this thing rusting or even getting any patina. You can see there the hollow grind playing with the light. Really nice distortion on it. Can give you a little bit of just kind of some visual pleasure while you enjoy the rest of this video. This thing is insane. So again, I compare it to some really nice knives in my collection, and this thing is up there with those. It just has so many things that just come together. It's a knife that just comes together, and the touch points where you have the action on it, the grips. It's right. This thing is right. I love this rounded edge here, and then because it does have that small little backspacer, it does give you a nice place to kind of get your thumb rested. If you did want to go into reverse grip, if you want to go to some more EDC type cuts, that also works. If you want to do some rolling kind of chops with it, that works. If you want to get into some precision cuts and really choke up on the blade and get your thumb rested, it works there too. Bottom line, this might just be one of the finest production knives currently available, guys. And that is saying a lot, because production knives are getting insanely good. Like crazy good. It used to be like it's Chris Reeve and everything else was like, hey, well, you might get a good Benchmade, you might not, or you might get a Tai Chung Spyderco and it'll be really finely finished. But now more and more you're seeing brands just produce really, really well put together knives. And guys, Quiet Carry is one of them, and they're not necessarily the knife guy's knife, and I think that's actually kind of a benefit to them. There's guys that do shop other brands that are more into gear and more into kind of EDC and just premium things, that I think will be able to enjoy this knife aesthetically as well as functionally, because it's just such a full and clever package. But then it's not comparable to something like, a Para 3 lightweight that's like a knife guy's knife. Like, this thing is obviously a knife guy is going to be able to love this thing and enjoy it. But the crazy thing is I can think of guys that, I work with, that would love this thing that aren't even into knives, because it's beautiful and it has all these feature sets that you just don't ever see. At least you don't see them executed to this level, made out of these materials at this price point. It just has so many things. It packs a punch. So with all that said, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.